Hey everyone, this is Professor Hall. Welcome back. If you are in my class, we are reading a number of amazing authors from the Harlem Renaissance. And as a supplement to that, I want to present some individuals who were doing other things. So, dancers, singers, actors, and musicians, artists, all of that kind of thing, because the Harlem Renaissance was a movement that was much more than just literature. Sometimes these people interacted and sometimes they didn't. There were a few people who were just like, really, Cab Calloway says he was just in the music scene and didn't really know much about what was going on in the literary world. But others, there are authors who sat with sculptures and were part of their circle, and musicians who were playing and performing at events that some of the literary figures that we are reading about were at. And certainly people like Langston Hughes were influenced by music and jazz and things like that. So this is the first person I want to present, and it's just a little mini lecture talking about her life. So let's get into it. Florence Mills, cabaret singer, dancer, comedian. She had such an interesting style, and unfortunately, she passed before there was any film of her. But I do have a little clip of someone demonstrating the type of dancing that she was known for, so I think that'll be really fun. Oh, a brief biography. I'm a little blackbird looking for a bluebird. That was her most famous song that she did. She was born to former slaves in 1896 and began performing as a young child. She won what is called a buck and wing dance contest at the age of 4. So, really precocious, getting a very, very early start. And then she went on to do vaudeville. These were stage acts that were often traveling and really popular in the days just before radio. So she joined a traveling show, and it was there that she met her husband. At the beginning of the Harlem Renaissance, she moved to New York and starred in the Broadway show Shuffle Along. She was known for her soprano voice, her syncopated dance, but also her comedic style. And because of all this, she was offered a role in the popular Ziegfeld Follies. She turned it down to travel with an all-black review, which I think is a really interesting choice because she could have maybe made a lot of money with Ziegfeld, but there would have obviously been some racism going on there that might have prevented her from really meeting her full potential, right? She might have felt kind of othered or different or exoticized. So that's one of the reasons that she decided to join the All Black Review. And unfortunately, she died quite young at the age of 31. Some people say it's from appendicitis, some say it's from tuberculosis. The different sources that I looked at are kind of not sure on that point. When you're talking about things 100 years ago, it's hard to pinpoint things, right? But her funeral was really attended by thousands of fans and her friends and family. Her legacy. So we don't have film of her, but we do have some great pictures. So this is Shuffle Along right here. And then this is one of the Broadway shows that she was in. I love the I love the costumes, the 1920s, and the stage makeup there. To me, it's kind of silly. So there aren't any vocal recordings of her in existence. However, she really did break a lot of racial barriers. She influenced other musical artists and actors of her time, especially given the comedic style that she used. We're going to talk about Josephine Baker a different week. And I think that Mills was probably an influence on Baker and the types of performances that she did. And we do have video of her, so we'll be watching those. But she also traveled through Europe, and a British critic said, "Our prejudices melt away when Florence Mills begins to sing." So, showing that sometimes things like art and music and literature, right? They break those racial barriers and people just appreciate good art and good talent for what it is. After her death, composers wrote songs in her memory. Duke Ellington, Fats Waller, Constant Lambert, they all wrote songs about her. So she was really beloved by a lot of people, probably whose names you know, even if you've never heard of her before. And there are also some children's books that were printed quite recently. Little Flo and Harlem's Little Songbird are both inspirational stories based on Mill's life. So continuing to influence people even today. So I want to take a look at a demonstration of some of the dances that she did. And in this demonstration, the other professor, who is a dance professor, which I am not, he explains how we see these moves in our dance today, which I think is really cool.
So there are three kinds of dances that emerged in the 19th century that become very important. And these are buck dances, wing dances, and jigs. So buck dance, very, very percussive and weighted down into the foot. Buck dances, lots of weight down the foot, energy. All these dances are about rhythm and percussion. Now, wing dances are really important and have a lot more kind of visibility in the 20th century and into the 21st century. Wing dances are dances where you literally flap parts of your body like as if they were wings. So these are all the dances that kind of get down here like this with the knees. You might have seen these dances or done some dances like this, but also with the arms. So you see how a wing dance, maybe 150 years later, can become part of maybe popping. The third form that emerged in the 19th century were called jigs. Jigs are dances that had lots and lots of energy and lots of velocity. So jigs, put jig and a wing together, you get something that we might recognize as footwork. Or something we might recognize as a Charleston, or the Kid and Play. Or if we just go back to the wing, we get something you might have known or heard of as being something like the butterfly. So these dances really have the same kind of root from the 19th century, and that's Black social dances. I'm Tommy DeFritz.
I just love that explanation because it really does show you just how physical her art was as a dancer and an actress and a comedian, right? So here she is very, very young, and it probably in her vaudeville days, right? This would be later on in some of the Broadway shows that she did. So I love here the top hat and the cane, the little, what they would have called at the time, like a hobo bag and that kind of thing. And I'll just end with this wonderful quote. The poet James Weldon Johnson said, "She could be risque, she could be seductive, but it was impossible to be vulgar, for she possessed a naivete that was alchemic. As a pantomimist and a singing and dancing comedian, she had no superior in any place or any race." So that's it for today, guys. This is Florence Mills. I hope that you learned something and see how some of the kind of style of dance that she did is still around today in various forms. And I think that's awesome. I'll see you next week. Thanks.